welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies, where I bring you a week's worth of news in a relatively short time frame. If you are a first-time watcher, thank you. If you've been watching, thank you. But before we get into anything, I would encourage you to go over to Rumble and follow me there, as well as the other social medias, as I do not know how well the YouTube algorithm will like this. So, and that's going to come up later in the video. Also, I will be talking about some conspiracy theories today. However, the tinfoil top hat will not make an appearance. I usually wear that as kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing about conspiracy theories, but this is a serious topic today, and therefore I find that inappropriate. And lastly, before getting into the news, I want to read Ephesians 6:12 from the New International Version of the Bible. Not that I am any saint myself. I know I have my flaws, but I feel it is actually appropriate for this video. And it says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." By now, I'm sure that everybody has heard about the assassination of Charlie Kirk that took place on September 10th in Utah at a college campus. Thankfully, the shooter was caught within 36 hours of Kirk's assassination, and the shooter was identified by FBI and local law enforcement as one Tyler Robinson. And I hate to make a reference to a meme right now, but this one truly does say it all. We're going on day 3 of Charlie Kirk's death, and no cities have been burned or convenience stores looted. So that should tell you everything you need to know about the difference between the two political sides in this country. Before the official FBI press conference that took place yesterday, an internal memo was leaked from the ATF to the team at Louder with Crowder, to which the ATF issued a subpoena for. TBD on that whole situation. However, from the press conference, we learned the name of Charlie Kirk's murderer, the weapon used, and the cultural phrases, as CNN put it from this despicable headline, that were engraved on the shell casings.
I know there's been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings. And I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this?" ? Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" ! Catch! Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow," and a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
Quick side note, if you are unfamiliar with firearms, the Mauser rifle in question was a German-made rifle that was used in World War I and World War II by the German militaries, so I find it darkly ironic that he used that to kill a fascist. Also, the Mauser rifle was originally chambered in 8mm Mauser, but the one in question was in 30-06, which is a common round that the American military used for some of their firearms in World War II, and it is a very popular hunting round as well. Now here Here I have a 223 round. This is what the common AR-15 shoots in today's culture. And here is a 308 round, which is a little bit bigger. As you can see, there is a difference. Now I know that the 308 is not a 30-06, but it is close enough to show how much bigger of a round that was used in this killing. So, I haven't heard anyone give a breakdown on the phrases that were engraved on the shell casings as mentioned before, so I will do my best to explain them. The first one, notices bulges, OWO, what's this, is in reference to furry culture. If you don't know what furries are, you're either older than me or extremely sheltered, but either way, congratulations. Furries are people that like to dress up in cartoonish animal costumes and have sex with each other. So that is in reference to someone's genitalia. Sorry, anybody who's watching this, I can't believe I had to even explain that. The second phrase, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, is in reference to an Italian anti-fascist song that became popular during the 1940s during the rise of Benito Mussolini's fascism, the real fascism. The third phrase, catch this, with the arrow symbols, is from the video game Helldivers 2. The arrow codes are for stratagems, which are beacons that you throw to either call in a weapon or an airstrike. Those arrows, up, right, down, 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 are for the stratagem called 500 kilogram bomb, which is a big bomb that you can call in to fight the enemies you are up against in the video game. And the last one is pretty self-explanatory. Before I get into a bit of a history lesson here, I want to address the conspiracy theories. To anyone saying this was Israel or Mossad, you are an idiot. Charlie Kirk was one of the most outspoken supporters of Israel, so why would they want him killed? Doesn't make any sense. Also, some are claiming that this was a coordinated hit by a professional shooter. Again, this is likely not true. The guy was 22 years old, no military experience, not a professional shooter. Plus, Charlie Kirk was roughly 6'4" tall, so he was a pretty decent-sized target. And there was another one claiming that he was wearing some kind of body armor. Doubt it. He was wearing a white t-shirt. You could practically see through the thing. The shot in the neck was most likely from the shooter jerking the gun as he pulled the trigger, so kind of pulling up a little bit, anticipating recoil. That is, if he was aiming for the chest area, or bullet drop if he was aiming for Charlie's head. As we know from physics, everything comes back down to earth, so bullets do the same thing. They're not lasers, they don't just keep going forever. However, the only conspiracy theory that I could possibly believe right now is that some faction within the FBI or CIA set this guy up. We know that the CIA was involved with the assassination of MLK and most likely JFK too, and cell phone data from Thomas Matthew Crooks showed him hanging out at a training facility that the FBI used before he took a shot at Trump. However, the most likely answer is that this was a lone gunman who acted on his own impulses. And that is why I said I will not be wearing the tinfoil top hat this week. So, let's go into a little bit of a history lesson, now that we've hit the main points about Charlie Kirk and his murderer, because it's important to know what led up to this. As early as 2010, the IRS started auditing people in the Tea Party and other conservative groups. If we remember correctly, that was during the Obama administration. Next, during the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters deplorables. Along with that, for the last 10 years, the left has labeled Trump and anyone who is right-leaning in their politics as Nazis and fascists, and have even condoned violence against them, like Maxine Waters in the past. Also, do y'all remember the punch a Nazi trend a few years ago? Because I remember that. Do you remember Aaron J. Danielson, the man in Portland who was shot in the chest simply for wearing a Patriot Prayer hat, which is a right-leaning group? I remember that. Not that I condone everything that Patriot Prayer has done, but this man was shot and killed simply for a hat. Do you remember the left celebrating the firebombing of Tesla dealerships and charging stations? Because I remember that. Do you remember all the bomb threats, death threats, and swattings against people like Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, and others like them? Because I remember that too. Do you remember when big tech platforms silenced and censored people for questioning COVID, including the governor of Florida? Because I remember that. And also, let's not forget the 2 assassination attempts on Trump, as well as Democrat politicians like Kamala Harris, who raised money to bail out rioters in 2020 for the fiery but mostly peaceful protests.
And what you are seeing now, these images came and come in stark contrast to what we saw over the course of the daytime hours in Kenosha and into the early evening, which were largely peaceful demonstrations in the face of law enforcement. It wasn't until night fell that things began to get a little bit more contentious. Things were thrown back and forth.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started, and there's a crowd that is.
And if we remember right, those protests caused over $2 billion in property damage and killed more than 30 people, including retired police chief David Dorn, who was a black man himself. And the 529 insurrection, when leftist radicals tried to storm the White House and set fire to the St. John's Church near the White House, which also forced Trump into the bunker beneath the White House, and then the left proceeded to make fun of him for that. I remember all of that, and I hope you do too. So, in the wake of Charlie's assassination, every Democrat politician has called for cooling the rhetoric, but I fear that time is long past us. Matt Dowd at CNN said this stupid shit.
But following up what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
Elizabeth Warren had to open her fat mouth too.
Oh, please. Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word.
And Democrats in Congress started booing and chanting "fuck you" when a moment of prayer was asked for by House Speaker Mike Johnson and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
What purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise? Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. 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 We will join prayer right after this, okay?
Thankfully, CNN fired Matt Dowd, and I hope he spends the rest of his miserable life scrubbing toilets at the worst truck stops in America. And all you scumbags like Chris Cuomo here who want to play the both sides game, let me remind you that the 12 of 14 guys involved with the Gretchen Whitmer plot were working with the FBI. Most of the people involved with the January 6th protests were actually peaceful, and even were waved into the building by police. And the guy who killed the Minnesota state politicians worked for them. Now, that guy, Vance Bolter, was previously a registered Republican, but when he was found, he had flyers for the No Kings protest in his car, so there are still questions about his political affiliation. So if you truly want to cool the rhetoric, start with your own side, because we have been seeing it for over a decade now. Finally, there's an alarming number of people celebrating Charlie's death on Twitter as well as in real life, as graffiti has been seen in some bigger cities depicting Charlie Kirk with blood spraying out of his neck alongside wording that says "debate this." In response to this vile, despicable behavior, people have gone onto the profiles of those celebrating, who are posting celebratory videos of Charlie's death, contacting their employers and getting them fired. There's even a website dedicated to this now called charliesmurderers.com, which I will have linked below. And a quick example from my backyard, there is a barbecue joint in Cincinnati called Lucius Barbecue, who one of the owners posted some of this vile stuff, and he has since parted ways with the restaurant, and the FCC, or the Cincinnati soccer people, have parted their partnership with them as well. So, and last little point on this, if you are crying about this, just know that the left tried to do this to people on the right during the 2020 election, contacting people's employers and getting them fired because they supported Donald Trump. So you truly do reap what you sow. Spare me the tears. I don't care. Now, people are asking, where do we go from here? And I think it's appropriate to talk about that. I think the solution to this problem is exactly what Charlie Kirk was doing. Try to talk with people you disagree with, but always keep your personal safety in mind. We know that Charlie was very influential with young people, and well, that's why he was a target. If you can, get your CCW license. I know in this instance that a Glock 19 at 200 yards away wouldn't have done a thing, but we've seen instances before of people being physically assaulted for doing exactly what Charlie was doing. Along with that, put your phone away while you're in public and pay attention to your surroundings, especially rooftops if you're at an outdoor public festival. If you see something shady going on, either get away or do something about it. Also, I'm calling myself out for this. Find a good church to go to. If you go to a church and the pastor is not calling out evil by name, not just, using vagaries like there's evil in the world, then you need to find a new church, because it's time for pastors to actually grow a pair again. And if you think, religion should stay out of politics, I'm also going to link a video that I did before about the Black Robed Regiment. Quick history lesson. It was during the Revolutionary War, and there was an unofficial group of pastors and other clergymen who advocated for the revolutionary cause. Going to just leave that there. You can go watch that video. Also, we need to fight this culture war with our dollars. Stop giving your money to corporations that hate you as much as you can. If you're a Christian and have Disney Plus, you need to cancel your subscription right away and stop going to the Disney parks. And as stated at the beginning of my video, go subscribe to people like Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, Benny Johnson, Viva Fry. Even Dr. Drew is on Rumble, as well as myself. YouTube needs some stiff competition, and Rumble is quickly catching up. I heard this week that Rumble actually outnumbered YouTube in downloads on the app stores. So maybe if YouTube has a little bit of their own Bud Light moment, they'll change course. And before anybody says in the comments on this video, well, you still post every week to YouTube, so aren't you part of the problem? I would say I have to go to where the people are to get the message to them. That's why every week I advocate you go over to Rumble and ditch YouTube as much as you can. And lastly, I think any media pundit or politician who's ever said that Trump and or Republicans are Hitler, Nazis, fascists, and the like should be charged with domestic terrorism. That rhetoric has cost people their lives, with the most impactful being Charlie Kirk this week. Criticize Trump for the way he talks, or walks, or his hair, or his skin tone, or most importantly, his policies, as I've been critical of some of them myself. But stop equating those you disagree with as Nazis, or more shit like this will happen. And finally, anybody who's calling for civil war, you're an idiot too. You literally do not know what you're talking about. And another one will not look like the first one, where there were two armies marching at each other across an open field. It will be guerrilla warfare in the streets, and it will get ugly real quick. And I don't know about you, but I like hot showers and cold beer. And I would like to keep enjoying those things, and I know you do too. So stop it. It is that is only going to make things worse. So that concludes my segment on Charlie Kirk. Feel free to agree or disagree with me in the comments below. But even though it seemed like the world stopped turning on September 10th, other things happened, and, well, I'm going to talk about them. The same day that Charlie Kirk was murdered, a school shooting happened at Evergreen High School in Colorado. To my knowledge, the only person who died was the shooter from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but 3 others were injured. And to tie back to Charlie Kirk, gun control didn't stop this shooting or Charlie's death, as schools are gun-free zones. The shooter here was 16 years old, so he wasn't able to buy the gun. And, you know, he had to steal it. So many laws were broken, and none of them stopped that from happening. I've ranted about that enough in the past. I'm going to leave that here. Another report of an active shooter situation happened on Thursday at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, but this turned out to not be true. The report came from an anonymous chat platform, which resulted in the academy going into lockdown. One person was injured after being perceived as a threat, as well as one police officer, but to my knowledge, they were both taken to the hospital and should be okay. And I guess a little bit of good news here. Rand Paul is trying to get Anthony Fauci to testify before Congress again after evidence suggests Fauci ordered the deletion of emails in regards to the COVID-19 virus, which is contradictory to his previous testimonies. Should that evidence prove wrongdoing, Fauci could be in some legal trouble. However, as I've stated before, with the Epstein scandal and the like, I will believe these things when I see people arrested. I think it was last week, I talked about the Hyundai plant in Georgia, so here's a little update on that. Most of the people detained working on that plant in Georgia were here illegally from South Korea. Members of the South Korean government condemned the move, saying it is a blow that will take a long time to recover from. So they must have just watched Tiger King right before that, because it sounds an awful lot like Joe Exotic. However, if you want us to trust you as an economic partner, you have to prove that you're trustworthy. And this seems like you might not be. This next story is one that was covered a lot lately in the news and was originally going to be the first one I covered today. However, other things happened. A Ukrainian woman named Irina Zarutska was stabbed to death in Charlotte, North Carolina by a man named DeCarlos Brown Jr. And this picture here is from the moment right before the knife was plunged into her neck. DeCarlos was arrested 14 times before this for other crimes, such as armed robbery, assault, and more. Mecklenburg County Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes is the one who went easy on him, which isn't surprising since she didn't pass the bar exam, and is the director of operations at Second Chance Services, as well as co-owner of Pinnacle Recovery Services, 2 organizations that are supposed to help people with mental health issues. Seems like she failed at her job there too, as this guy was clearly out of his mind. To play devil's advocate, though, North Carolina doesn't require magistrate judges to pass the bar exam in order to become a judge. Seems a little weird, but that's for North Carolina to figure out. Corporate media really took their time reporting on this, and when someone from a corporate media outlet finally did say something, this was the angle that they took.
Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime. We heard President Trump asked about it yesterday when he was heading home from New York City. He didn't seem to know much about it. He said he would get briefed, and then today Trump did know all about it. That's exactly what has happened here. This story has trickled up from local news to social media and now to the president's attention, and it's being used, as you said, Brianna, as a political symbol, with MAGA media calling for more forceful punishments and more incarceration. I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender. And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on social media.
Mind you, this jackass made this remark just a few days before Charlie Kirk was killed. Trump also made a statement on the situation once he was briefed on it, as seen here.
I've made clear that Attorney General Pam Bondi is working really hard, that we must get answers about the causes of these repeated attacks, and we're working very, very hard on that. The Trump administration will have no tolerance for terrorism or political violence, and that includes hate crimes against Christians, Jews, or anybody else. We're not going to allow it. And there was also a horrible killing recently in Charlotte, where I talked about, and so many others, and we're going to get to the end of it. And, you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions. And the actions that we take are nothing. This cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon. In many cases, going out and killing again. Cashless bail,
And Attorney General Pam Bondi is seeking federal charges on the killer, which I think are appropriate. A lot of people are proposing the idea of holding judges and district attorneys accountable when they let people like this off easy, which I agree with. I also kind of like the idea of a 3-strike type rule, as most people who are let off easily go on to reoffend. However, there are some examples, or some exceptions to this rule, like Jelly Roll and J.D. DeLay. Both men have had careers in and out of prison for various types of crimes, but they both turned their lives around and now actively help people in similar situations that they were in. So maybe the 3-strike type rule won't always work. If you have more expertise in legal areas, I would like to hear your opinion on that. And speaking of crime, Chicago gangs are threatening to fight the National Guard should they be deployed to the Windy City.
Trump, do not send the National Guard to Chicago, gang. Do not, I repeat, do not do it. We are a different fucking breed out here, nigga. We are not Los Angeles. Nigga, we are not Washington, D.C. Nigga, this is Chicago, nigga. Them niggas go fight back. I'm telling you, them niggas go fight back, gang. Whatever, I don't give a fuck what you talking about. Them young niggas got switches, gang. They not going for that shit, bro. I know a bunch of y'all finna say, oh, it's the National Guard. They can't do anything about it. They must go in Chicago. Nigga, do y'all know that it's more bad people than good people, bro? There are over 100,000 gangs in Chicago by the city by itself, gang.
Now, this kind of talking is probably just bloviating, as these gangs have never faced organized military units before. But in the wake of this past week, I really hope no bloodshed ever occurs like that, because it will only get worse. Time for some international news. A British model was arrested in Dubai for possession of cocaine, and she is facing a very long prison sentence there. It sucks, especially for a pretty blonde woman to be arrested in the Middle East. However, don't go to other countries and break their laws. You won't end up in trouble by keeping your nose clean. Pun intended. I would also say the same thing for Brittany Griner. Don't go to Russia with a weed pen and you'll be alright. Doesn't matter what you think, it matters what the law says. Next, violent protests erupted in Nepal this week, shortly after the communist government implemented a complete ban on social media, except for a few outlets, the most notable being TikTok. Funny how that played out. People were seen tearing down communist flags, burned the parliament building, as seen here. And even killed the wife of the now former prime minister who stepped down on Tuesday of this week. While I do not like to see mass violence like this, I am glad that people are standing up against communists again, as we all know how communist ends. Spoiler alert, it ends with a lot of people dead. NATO scrambled fighter jets over Poland due to reports of Russian drones in the area. Of course, the Russian government denied the accusations of aggression toward Poland, but anybody who's smart would do so. It does not seem that anyone was hurt or killed in Poland because of Russian drones, but we'll see where this goes. Hopefully, it is not an act of aggression and just a simple mistake. And finally, Israel attempted to bomb Hamas leadership in Qatar this week. The Hamas leadership was in Qatar to meet with representatives from the United States government about a ceasefire in Gaza. However, President Trump took to Truth Social afterwards to address the matter, which you can see here in his statement. Feel free to pause the video and read it. I'm not going to read it myself, but you can. It definitely seems like Trump really needs to tighten the leash on Bibi, otherwise this will go on forever. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of my tax dollars going to fund forever wars. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up here. Take care of yourselves, keep your kids safe, and hug your loved ones a little tighter this week, because you never know when it'll be the last day. So with that being said, I will see you all next week. Thank you.